looking at the rent, there's a 95% chance it's going to be significantly more than it is now. And when we looked at the actual price, it was 480, and there's a 95% chance that it is worth 567,000 or more. So that's up by 80,000. That's more than 16. That's probably about 17% in the next 12 months, or is it 15 months?
15 months. In the next 15 months.
Okay.
In the next 15 months. Now, how accurate are our models? And that's why I want to talk about this, because it's easy to make predictions. Right?
Yeah.
I could make a prediction, right? But is it an accurate prediction?
I have a big prediction. I think the property market on average is going to go up by 20% over the next 12 months. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
We'll see what happens 1 year from now. Hello and welcome. You're listening to Dashdot Insider, the auditory epicenter for passionate property investors seeking a life of freedom, choice, and abundance. Today, once again, I am delighted to have Julian with us. A couple of weeks ago, we had a fantastic episode where it was the second episode in a series that we're making where we're really lifting the lid and showing you inside how all of the tech at Dashdot works and how we're able to predict with incredible accuracy the suburbs that tend to outperform the market by double digits. And last time it was really fascinating. We found out about a ratio that we use at Dashdot called the demand-supply ratio and what the key numbers you need to look for to understand that. Today, we're back again with Julian. Thank you, Julian, for jumping on again. How are you today?
Good morning, Emil. I'm very well and very pleased to be here today.
Excellent. Well, today, a little birdie told me that we're going to be looking at rent and price forecasts, which I understand and how we calculate those, which I think probably everyone listening to this is going to want to know because, what's better than knowing how much your property is going to be worth in 12 months or 15 months or something like that. So without further ado, I'll hand the reins over to you and you can take us.
Thank you. And let's continue our journey and data analysis of East Bunbury. So to do that, I'm going to share my screen as usual.
So last time in episode 2 of this series, we were looking at a lot of the key indicators. And we looked at a real suburb, East Bunbury, and we use real data. So it's real. It's not in episode 1, we use dummy data, but we're actually using the production site. So actually using the real data for East Bunbury, and which is in Perth. And you can see there we've got a whole lot of tabs, population, dwelling, and key indicators that we looked at last time.
So last time we went through population, dwelling, and key indicators. Today we're going to talk about price and rent forecasts as well as projects.
Okay.
All right. So let's start with our price and rent forecast models. All right. So we spent 2 years developing these models, and each model, these two models, predict the suburb median price and the suburb median rent 15 months into the future.
Okay. You just said we spent 2 years developing this model. That's not 2 years worth of data. That's 2 years working on the technical algorithm to produce.
Yeah, and this is where we use AI, specifically machine learning, and we use a number of algorithms. We use 2 actually. I'm not going to name them, but we use 2 machine learning algorithm to power these 2 forecasting models.
Wow. 2 years to program and make this model work. That's amazing.
Yeah. We even developed, because we analyzed about over like 500 metrics for each model, and then come to a point like, identifying which metric is relevant manually was just very cumbersome. So what we did, we developed a digital machine that basically was able to automatically identify the metrics / indicators that really matter when it comes to predicting a price. And that's basically really speed up the process. So we fed this machine about 500 different metrics. And of the 500 plus, we shortlisted, there was 60 that were shortlisted and deemed as having a significant impact on the price forecast. And I'll go through that. They give us now fairly good accuracy in the prediction, and we're going to cover that later today. In an ideal world, if we had all access to all the entire data in the world, and we could feed this data into this machine that helped us shortlist what really matters when it comes to price forecast and range forecast, we could have the perfect model for this forecast. Unfortunately, we don't have access to the entire data in the world or the universe, so we had to make do with what we have, and we have, fairly proud of the results we're getting through these forecasting models.
Also, we can't be just gathering data forever. Eventually, you need to be making a decision, and clients need to be making it, or investors need to be making a decision. We can't just be, I'm just going to crunch more data and try to improve the accuracy. At some point, you can become more efficient by working out, well, there are 500 plus variables, 440 plus of them don't really have much of a difference. Let's focus on these 60 that are the big drivers. But 60 is still a huge number. I don't think I could be bothered researching 60 different factors for a property I was a suburb I was looking to buy.
Yeah, 60 indicators, with 40 years of data, and then you need to crunch that all together. Yeah, not a simple task.
It's a complex process. Get 40 years of data,
it's very complex.
Analyze 500 different variables, work out which 60 are actually important, recrunch those for the specific location that you want, then try to find a property. That sounds pretty hard.
It is, but we've done it thanks to our amazing talents in the data science team. They're really very talented team. Very talented team. So what you've got here, I'm going to start with the median sales price prediction forecast. You can see on that screen. So in green here, on the left side of this, I would say, gray band is really your historical median sales price. And when you go in this gray band, it's 15 months of price forecast. So the light blue is really your price range forecast with a 70% confidence. And so in dark blue, and in light blue is with a 95% confidence, right? So the more confidence you want, obviously the wider is going to be your price range when it comes to predicting price.
Okay. So in terms of confidence, this is probably something that might need to be explained. And the way I've normally tried to help people understand the idea of like what a confidence interval is and how it pertains to this data here is, or these data, is if you have a coin and you toss it 100 times and you get 50 heads and 50 tails, then you can say, it's a fair coin, right? But if it's 51 and 49, you're going to say, well, I'm not 100% confident, but it's pretty close. It's probably like it's only one flip that could be different, so it's almost certainly still a fair coin, right? But what if it's like 45, 55? Then you're thinking, there could be something not quite right here. Or what if it's 42 and 58? Or what if it's 39 and 71? At 39, 71, you're thinking, I think there might be something up with this coin. And so we don't really talk in statistics necessarily in terms of this is a 100% fair coin or this is not a fair coin. We talk in terms of how confident we are that something is a fair coin or not a fair coin. And so if it's at 42%, if it's at 42 and 58, then there are various equations that you can use to determine how confident you can be that it's a fair coin or not a fair coin. And so when people are trying to work out, well, what's the level at which you say, no, well, that's where you draw the line. And the line is normally 95% when you're doing any scientific studies or anything like that. Depending on what it is, most of the time, people are looking for a 95% confidence interval. So that's why we use 95% there.
Yes. So it's confidence in our prediction. So, for example, here, if I take the example of 70% confidence zone, the dark blue, so we are 70% confident, let's say, that the price in July 2025 is going to be between $586,000, 915, and on the lower band, and $6,000 $643,637, right? All right. If, for example, I wanted to be 100% confident, you'll have like a much wider band, because 100%, it would say there's 100% chance that the price is going to be between zero and
$1
$1
trillion.
billion,
Yeah.
$1 trillion, right?
Like
Something
that.
like so the smaller your confidence level, the thinner your confidence zone is, if that makes sense, right? So if you wanted to be 5% confident, you'll be like, oh yes, it's basically 5% chance that you're going to land with a price at, like somewhere like in between, exactly there. Yes. Right. So it's really like, or forecast is really like a price range, right? And the dark blue tells you, okay, in 15 months time, there's 70% chance that your price might land in that price range,
Right. And so
within
there's
that
a
band,
30% chance that it
And
might be higher or lower. So if you want to be more
yes,
confident, then you use the 95% confidence interval. And that's like
yeah,
19
yeah,
times out of 20, the price is going to arrive in this
yeah,
larger band.
yeah, yeah. One time out of 20, we're 95% confident that the price will be between this number, 673,000, and 565,000. Right, right. And could be anywhere in between, but that would be in that range.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah, so the narrower the band, the more, I would say, confident we are in our prediction, right? Sometimes if we pick other servers, you will have very wide bands. It means or forecast is not, yeah, the confidence level is lower, basically. Yeah. So here it's looking pretty good. So we can see like very likely the price will continue to go up in the next 15 months. Okay. Right? Because even if you take the lower band on the 70% of the 95%, right, lower band of our 95% confidence, you're still at 565,000, which still is higher than the current median price.
Yeah. The median
Right?
price now was 525 for the last 3 months, and it was
Yeah,
480,000 for the last 12 months.
for the last 12 months. Yeah. So here we use the MSP measure of 12 months. Yeah, to be more statistically viable. Yeah. Because you get more data. Yeah. So that's for price. And then we've got the same thing with rent. So exactly the same principles. So we believe that basically the rent is currently the median asking rent is currently at 520. And we believe that there's 70% chance that the rent in 15 months time will be between 567 and 607, right? Which is still higher than the current one at 520, right? And even if I pick the 95% confidence zone, so we're 95% confident that the rent in 15 months time will be between 550 and that probably is 650. That would be 650, bit of a UX, yeah, 650. But if we take the lower band at 550, so we say there's 95% chance that the rent in 15 months time will be at least 550. It's still higher than the current rent, that 520, right?
So, looking at the rent, there's a 95% chance it's going to be significantly more than it is now. And when we looked at the actual price, it was 480, and there's a 95% chance that it is worth 567,000 or more. So that's up by 80,000. That's more than 16. That's probably about 17% in the next 12 months, or is it 15 months?
15 months, in the next 15 months.
Okay.
In the next 15 months. Now, how accurate are our models? And that's why I want to talk about this, because it's easy to make predictions, right?
Yeah.
Well, I could make a prediction, right? But is it an accurate prediction?
I have a big prediction. I think the property market on average is going to go up by 20% over the next 12 months. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
We'll see what happens 1 year from now. See how close we're.
Yes. We'll see. Let's see how we go. Yeah. It will be good podcast. So what we did, come back to my other slide, we first we backtested our model for accuracy over the last 3 years. Sorry, we did 152,000 forecast over the last 3 years. Right? So basically,
152,000.
Yes, 152,000. The exact number is 151,812 forecast. Right. So we took all the suburbs we have with statistically viable data across the 60 indicators that we use in our model, right? And we forecasted the price for each of these suburbs over the last 3 years, for each month of over the last 3 years. Okay, so that's basically 36 forecasts times the number of suburbs that were in scope. Right, and then what we did, we compared this forecast against the actual price, which we had because that was in the past. Okay, all right, so we did a comparison of the forecasted price against the actual price. Right, and what happened is that of these 151,000 or 152,000 forecasts, 9.8% were within a plus or minus 1% error compared to the actual.
Okay, so that means if we were to look at East Bunbury now, and we have that forecast, and the median was something like 580, I think, something like that, 580, 590. That's what the eyeball prediction is. There's a 10% chance that we're within 1% of that, within $5,000.
Yes, if we based on historical data, right?
Okay.
And there's a 69.7% chance that the forecast will be within plus or minus 5%.
Okay.
All right.
That's very tight.
Yes. Yes. So that's what we did, and yeah, across 150,000 forecasts, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And we did the exact same thing with rent. All right. So we did the exact same number of forecast, 152,000 forecast, right, over the last 3 years for a number of suburbs where we've got the data. And of this forecast, of this 152,000 forecast, 14.6% were within 1% when compared to the actual median price. Right? And almost 74% were within plus or minus 5% when compared to the actual price, which is also pretty good. Right? And
you're speaking like a statistician. That's pretty good. To me, that looks amazing. To be within 5% margin of error 74% of the time, that's an incredibly accurate model.
It is very accurate. Yeah, and we compared against other models on the market. They're not doing price forecast, but they do, for example, property valuation model, for example, AVMs, for price, for rent, and the accuracy we get when we use back testing was higher than these models.
Right. Okay.
Other models available on the market. Right?
Yeah, that's useful because when you're property investing, you want to be getting the most accurate information that you can. You don't want to be sort of like, oh yeah, here are a few rules of thumb, and someone that I know, he's a property investor, and he said this suburb's going to be good. No. If you get the data, and then you can get some real projections, you can sort of plan out a much rosier future.
Correct. So that's basically when we looked at the past. So we made forecast in the past and compared to the actual. What we're also doing here, and here I'm in a tool called Tableau, which allows to analyze our data and create dashboard. Now we're tracking the actual forecast. Okay, so for example, as we said earlier, we made a forecast tomorrow, right, for tomorrow's price, and then tomorrow I get the real price. I'm going to compare the two, right? So that's basically we're ongoing tracking the accuracy of our model, right? So, and we've been doing this since we launched our model in July 2022. Now here I'm displaying the data for April 2024. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm comparing the forecast that our model did for April 2024 to the actual price we got in April 2024. Does that make sense?
It does. That makes
Okay.
perfect sense. So
Okay.
if I can just ask a question, this feels a little bit like weather models and the way those have been developed, and that they're a fairly chaotic thing. And when I was little, it would say, "Oh yeah, it's going to rain today," and then it wouldn't, and they were highly inaccurate. And so it was an inaccurate model, but they were gathering more data every day and adding that to their model. And now, they can say there's a 75% chance of rain this afternoon. Take an umbrella, and 75% of the time they say that, it ends up raining. And you can now weather, depending on where you live, right? I'm fortunate. I live in Tokyo, and the weather modeling here is extremely accurate. You can sort of tell to the hour what the chance of rain is and things like that. And it always seems to be extremely accurate, because even though 40 years ago they may have been extremely inaccurate, they've just kept on getting more and more data every day, every week, every month. And now it looks like our property model is getting just tighter and tighter and tighter, and more accurate and more accurate and more accurate with every day and every week and every month of data that we get.
Correct. Yeah, it's an opportunity. It's called ongoing improvement. Yeah. So let's just look at the first two columns here. So here, that's where we assess the forecast for all the suburbs where we make forecast, right? Because our model doesn't make forecast for all suburbs because there's not sufficient data. But for those, for the suburbs where we have significant data and where we can make forecast, here we're going to compare the accuracy. So for April 2024, our price forecast model made 3,944 forecast, right? For 3,944 suburbs. Of these 3,944 suburbs, the model predicted that 3,310 will go up in price, right? What happened is that of the 3,310, only 2,819 went up in price in the real world, right? But that's still an 85% accuracy in terms of where the price is going to go in terms of direction, right? So we said 3,210 will go up in price. 85% of these went up. The model also predicted that in April 2024, 634 of these 3,944, 634 will go down in price, right? That's what we forecasted. Of the 634 that we said they will go down in price in April, 618 went down in price, right? That's almost 98% accuracy in price direction on the downward side.
Okay,
right?
So when we're predicting whether or not a suburb is going to go up in growth, looks like we're getting it about 85%. And if we're predicting which ones are going to go bad, then we're much more accurate at nearly 98%. Yeah. But that's just for April, right?
That's for April 2024. That's for that month. If I pick another month, we get different results. But we're fairly consistent across the month, so that's a good thing, right? Now, we also, when we compare forecast with actual, of the 3,944, 350 had a price forecast within plus or minus 1% when compared to the actual, right? So that's around 9%. And 2,733 had the price forecast within plus or minus 5% when compared to the actual. So that's 70% accuracy, plus or minus 5%. So that's for all suburbs. Now, obviously, we don't invest in all suburbs. We invest in suburbs that we call A-list, right? Now, when we look at the same analysis for only the suburb where we invest on behalf of our client, the results are significantly much better. Right? So, for example, predicting that suburb will go up in price. We're 99% accurate. For the suburb where we predict they will go down, we're 100% accurate.
Okay.
Right?
So A-list are ones that we're really focused on and we're analyzing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct. Yeah. That's the one basically where we're very active, right? Of the 182 on our suburbs in our A-list, we said 28 at a price or 15% at a price forecast within plus or minus 1%, and 87% at a price forecast within plus or minus 5%. And we're checking that every month, right? And I can go back in time and that we're getting similar results. So our models are fairly consistent and in their accuracy over time. And obviously that's something we currently actively working on, is refining this model to making more and more accurate over time. Right? But the hard part is as you get closer to 100%, it's easier to get to 0 to, let's say, 80% accuracy. It's much harder to go from 80 to 90. And it's very hard to go from 90 to 95. So the closer you want to get to 100%, the harder it gets to add this incremental improvement in your accuracy.
And then all you need is one murder in the suburb, and it can just create a little bit of a blip in that area for 1 month, and it's like, the whole...
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's like, we have to write June off. But let's look at July. By July, the data will be back.
Final words on our price and rent forecasting model. So what we did in 2023, we applied to the Financial Review Most Innovative Company Award, and we applied one innovation name was actually our price and rent forecasting model, and we were very pleased to finish in second place in the property construction and transport industry category for being the most innovative company, thanks to our price and rent forecasting models. Now, to put things into context, right, and see who we are competing against, in first position, that was Charter Hall. So Charter Hall has got 500 plus employees and a market cap of 3.1 billion. Right? Third place, Venture, market cap 2.4 billion and 500 plus employees. Mirvac, fourth position, 500 plus employees, 8.4 billion companies. 8.4 billion market cap. So we were competing against, not just startups, but also big fish. Right? So we were very pleased by these results, and that just demonstrate that our price and rent forecasting models
it's
been recognized.
It's very impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, to go up against those other companies like that and come out, second, that's very, very impressive. Because the market cap, we don't have a market cap that's in the billions. We don't have that money that we can just.
I wish.
We invest very heavily in the tech.
Yeah.
It's a lot of our revenue goes into making sure that we're getting this modeling really, really important, really, really spot on, because we really don't want to mess up with any clients. We want to make sure that the suburbs that we get clients into are the ones that we know are going to perform well.
Yeah, I think we're over 5 million in investment in our data and tech, and that's 5 million in the context of Dashdot. That's, I don't know, like a much higher percentage of our revenue that it would be for these big companies. They probably, maybe, I don't know, like I don't want to.
Yeah, at Mirvac, it wouldn't even be a line item.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, what's that invoice for? Just pay it.
That's it. Yeah. Okay, final tab, projects. Okay. So, as we discussed in our first episode, projects create jobs, right? Jobs attract workforce. Workforce need a place to live. They start renting initially, and then if they like the price, they start buying, right? And then as they start buying, it pushes prices up, right? And that's particularly true in regional areas. Whereas in capital cities, it's more like affordability that tends to attract population. Okay, so East Bunbury, we've got 53 projects within 100K radius. Right now, these 53 projects represent a total investment of $35.5 billion. Huge. Okay, huge. Right now, for each project, we track projects across 5 phases. Okay. Early planning, tender, construction, and completed. Now, you would agree that a project in early planning doesn't have the same likelihood to reach completion than a project that is currently in construction phase. Right?
So the further along, the more likely it is that it will be completed.
Correct.
Okay.
So what we've done, for example, early planning projects. Okay, so this one, Bunbury offshore wind farm, 10 billion investment. It's currently in early planning. So we said there's a 40% chance that it's going to reach completion and then create the job that it is meant to create. Right? So what we do, we just apply 40% to 10 billion. Right? So if we take projects in, let's say, planning, the likelihood to reach construction is much higher, 55%. So we only account for 55% of the total project estimated value. Okay. And then what you get in the end is what we call a total weighted estimated investment. Right? When we apply for each project their likelihood and their total investment, and that gives you a total weighted estimated investment of 20.2 billion, right? Compared to the original 35.5. So 35.5 would just take all the projects, and let's say how many projects? 53. We take their estimated value, estimated investment, we sum them up. Here we apply a likelihood on top of it. That makes sense?
It does, yeah, 100%.
Perfect. And then this one, what we do, we divide this number by the number of habitants in the suburb, right? So it's per capita. So basically in East Bunbury, you've got a total investment, project investment of 5 million per head.
That
huge.
sounds high. That sounds
Yeah,
high.
it's huge
Okay.
when compared to the average in Australia. The average across Australia is around 50K per head.
So
right?
that means there's 100 times more investment per capita going into East Bunbury than the Australian average.
100 times, yes, correct, right? And that's what we tracked here is really like the total weighted estimated investment. And what I like to see on this graph, it's still going up. It's still going up. So it means that there's more investment coming in the region.
Or does it mean there's more investment, or that those projects are progressing further through and therefore the percentage of likelihood completion is going up?
Very good point. Very good point. It's also could be the case. Yeah. Okay. So it's either or.
But it means that they're getting approved. It means that the investment's actually happening. They're getting approved. They're moving through the funnel more. So we get more and more confident, and that $5 million number, that's going to go up, presumably.
Yeah, and they are likely to create the jobs they are meant to create.
Right, because $5 million per person is heaps.
It's huge. Now, you would argue at the moment we're listing all the projects within 100K radius. Now, what you want to do is that the bigger the city, the lower the radius you want to apply, right? Because from a capital city, the workforce is less likely to commute long distance because they can find they've got more job options and closer jobs options, right? So let's say Bunbury, even if we reduce the radius to 30K, right? We still have 24 projects, right? 24 projects and equivalent to 3.7 million per head, right? So before we were like at 5 millions. Now, if we reduce the radius to 30K, we still have 3.7 millions of project investment per head, right? And 30K is not a big range. I mean, there's a lot of projects happening in the regions, right? Lots of projects, right? So we've got 24 projects. We can sort them in different order. What I like to use as a sort is by industry, right? So here we've got a project. We've got wind farm projects. I don't like wind farm projects because what they do is they create a lot of jobs to establish the wind farm. But once the wind farm is established, you don't need many jobs to run the farm, right? So they're not great projects to create long-term jobs and attract workforce. However, I love this one, a lithium-ion battery manufacturing plant. That's 2.9 billion. That's a project that is going to create a lot of jobs, right? Particularly in the context of electronic vehicle, that is a growing industry, right? Right. So that's basically a lot of jobs to create the plant, but also a lot of jobs to run the plant, right? So I really like this town. There's also the lithium. I guess there's a mine next to it, 1.5 billion. So that's great. Here we've got infrastructure projects, like road extensions, very good. Means like the government is investing in the infrastructure, right, to facilitate transportation. So I like to see this project. There's an hospital redevelopment, love hospital project in regional areas. We discussed, they attract workforce. They need a number of specialized workforce to run. You need specialized workforce to run an hospital. Likely they're going to live in the region, and it's in construction phase as well. What else? We've got industrial park. They're developing a waterfront. There's just lots happening. If I go on the second page, shopping center as well, like big investment in a shopping center. So that means like they're pumping a lot of money in the region. And what that means is just a lot of jobs. Yeah. So yeah, to summarize, so that's it for Bunbury. But Bunbury is a region that has a lot to offer in terms of property investment. That's why I like to call an all-rounder. It just ticks all the boxes, really. Yeah. And that's why we're still investing in the region, even if the price went up. There's just so much happening, so much money being pumped in that it's still going to go up.
Yeah,
still going to go up.
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
All right. Well, East Bunbury. In part 2 of this little series, we had a look at a lot of the key indicators, and I did mention the demand-supply ratio, which is a metric that we've created. But today, having had a look at those rent forecasts and understanding the confidence intervals and then all the infrastructure projects, it's amazing to me the level of detail that we go into to analyze all of this stuff. Like, I mean, I've worked in property for a long time, and someone might have, oh yeah, here's our 11-point checklist for a good property location, or a 38-point checklist, or a 12-point checklist. I've never seen ever the level of detail that we go into in assessing demand and supply, in assessing infrastructure projects getting approved and what exact level they're up to. All of the population data, how much population is moving in, which industries people are employed in, all of that stuff that has a pretty major effect on what's going to happen to property prices, all in one place that spits out a number and tells us, is this a suburb that we should be looking at? So on that happy note, thank you, Julian, for lifting the lid.
You're welcome.
You're
welcome, Emil.
Showing us everything that your team's been working on for such a long time.
Yeah, thank you. And again, data is just one element. Once we look at the data and say, yeah, well, the data looks great, then there's this whole step where the property team steps in and start calling a real estate agent, and we start talking to like thought leaders to get their opinion on the area. And only then, if they like share similar feedback or the same confidence as us, only then we say, okay, let's invest in that suburb.
Right. Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's leave it there. Once again, Julian, thank you so much for explaining everything that you've explained today in terms simple enough for someone like me who's not tech savvy to be able to understand everything that you've been explaining in just the depth. The depth is overwhelming. The level of depth that we go into. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on again sometime.
Emil, thank you very much. Until the next time, all the very best.
Thank you.